You're refusing a lawful order. Move now.
What exactly am I doing that counts as disorderly conduct?
Step away from the entrance. Lower your voice.
I'm not blocking anyone. I'm asking for an explanation.
Bro, she's not even
Turn
yelling.
around.
You're under arrest.
I am complying. I am not resisting.
Not right. She didn't do anything.
At 8:42, on a gray Washington morning, a calm black woman in a navy suit was handcuffed in front of a federal building, while people in power walk mode slowed just long enough to stare, because she did the one thing authority hates most. She stood still, asked a clear question, and refused to sound afraid. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from in the comments, and please take a second to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This story only gets heavier from here. The woman's name was Nia Coleman. She stood beside a concrete planter near the main entrance, briefcase at her feet, posture straight, voice low. She wasn't blocking the door. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't waving her arms or drawing attention. The only thing unusual about her was how steady she looked while being talked down to. Commuters passed through the security checkpoint behind her, badges flashing, shoes clicking. No one had stopped because of her. No one had complained. Yet a uniformed officer stood inches away, shoulders squared, tone sharp enough to cut. "Step away from the entrance. Lower your voice," he said. Nia didn't move. She didn't argue. She asked one sentence, calm and slow, the way people do when they already know the answer. "What exactly am I doing that counts as disorderly conduct?" That question changed the air. The officer, Caleb Ward, shifted his stance. His hand hovered near his radio like it needed reassurance. He repeated himself, louder this time, as if volume could replace clarity. People nearby pretended to check their phones while very clearly recording. A second patrol unit slowed at the curb but didn't stop. Ward felt eyes on him, felt control slipping in a place where control was supposed to be automatic. Nia glanced around. The doors behind her opened and closed without delay. She gestured once, not dramatic, just factual. "No one is blocked. I'm not shouting. I'm asking for an explanation." Ward heard challenge where there was none. His jaw tightened. 7 years on the force had taught him one lesson well. Never let a situation look like it's running you. Calm resistance, especially in public, especially from someone who didn't flinch, felt like disrespect. He took a half step closer. "You're refusing a lawful order," he said. "Turn around." That was it. No warning, no attempt to clarify. No supervisor called. Cold metal closed around Nia's wrists while phones lifted higher. The click of the cuffs echoed louder than the traffic. She exhaled once, steady, and complied. The city didn't stop moving, but something important broke open right there on the sidewalk. What Ward didn't know was who he had just arrested. Nia Coleman wasn't just another commuter. She was a senior litigator in the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. For 15 years, she had built cases against departments that relied on vague charges when authority felt questioned. Disorderly conduct was one of them. She had written training notes warning agencies how easily those arrests collapsed under scrutiny. She had told rooms full of officers that calm questioning was not a crime. Now she stood cuffed by the same logic she had dismantled in court. Her mind didn't race. It organized. She noted the time. She noted the words used. She noted the lack of cause. This wasn't panic. This was documentation. Ward guided her toward the patrol car. "You escalated this," he said, low and clipped. Nia responded just once. "I am complying. I am not resisting." That sentence wasn't for him. It was for the record. The back seat smelled like disinfectant and plastic. The divider blocked everything but sound. As the door shut, a woman on the sidewalk whispered, "That's not right." No one answered her. The car pulled away. Nia's story didn't start that morning. It started decades earlier in a small Maryland apartment where rules mattered and fairness was dinner table conversation. Her mother sorted mail for the city. Her father taught middle school history. Questions were encouraged. Silence was not. In classrooms where she was often the only black girl, Naya learned precision early. Speak clearly. Stay calm. Never give anyone an excuse to dismiss you. Law school sharpened that instinct. She graduated near the top of her class and turned down money that came with silence. At the DOJ, she worked cases most people never heard about: housing discrimination, unlawful stops, retaliatory arrests. She watched body camera footage frame by frame until truth stopped hiding between seconds. Officers testified. Departments denied. Patterns emerged. Disorderly conduct showed up again and again. A catch-all charge. A shortcut. A way to flip the script when someone didn't back down fast enough. She knew the statute by memory. The patrol car returned to the complex for processing. As Nia stepped out, cuffed, heads turned openly now. Phones were no longer subtle. Ward kept his voice firm, louder than necessary. Stay here. Don't move. She nodded once. I am a federal employee, she said evenly. My identification is in my bag. I'm asking you to verify it. We'll deal with that later, Ward replied. Later is where accountability goes to disappear. Inside the precinct, fluorescent lights flattened everything. At booking, the charge was read aloud. Disorderly conduct. Routine words. Heavy impact. Naya stood still while her belongings were taken. Watch, phone, keys. The cuffs stayed on. Each small sound carried. She repeated her request. Verification. It was ignored. Across the room, people waited who had no cameras and no titles. Nia sat on a cold bench and looked straight ahead. This was the moment she had warned others about. The moment where procedure pretended to be justice. Ward wrote his report nearby. Subject refused to comply. Subject caused alarm. He didn't mention the calm voice. He didn't mention the open doorway. He didn't mention the crowd filming. The narrative wrote itself the way it always did. Outside those walls, the videos spread. Someone recognized Nia's face. Someone typed her name. Someone else added her title. The truth didn't rush. It stacked. When Captain Elise Grant walked onto the floor an hour later, she felt the shift before she saw it. Her eyes moved from the charge screen to Nia's posture. It didn't match. She asked one question that should have been asked on the sidewalk. Who is she? The answer changed everything. Verification took 2 minutes. Grant looked at the credentials, then at Ward. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. This arrest should not have happened, she said. Nia's cuffs were removed quietly. The sound was small. The impact was not. Ward was relieved of duty on the spot. The room avoided his eyes. Nia stood, wrists free, expression unchanged. I'll need the report, the footage, and every name involved. Grant nodded. You'll have it. Nia walked out into daylight again, not because she was powerful, but because the facts were undeniable. The sidewalk looked the same. The damage did not. This was only the beginning. By noon, the video had a life of its own. It moved faster than any press release ever could. The clip showed a calm black woman standing still, asking one question, then being handcuffed like she had caused chaos. No shouting. No threat. Just authority snapping because it had been questioned. People didn't need a narrator to tell them what they were seeing. They recognized it instantly. Inside the department, the mood shifted from routine to defensive. Phones rang without pause. Screens refreshed constantly. Supervisors replayed the footage in silence, each viewing making it harder to pretend the arrest had been justified. The charge looked weaker every time the clip looped. Officer Caleb Ward sat alone in a small interview room, uniform still on, badge removed. The walls were bare. No windows. Just a table and 2 chairs. He had replayed the moment in his head so many times it felt edited. In his version, Nia had been louder, more defiant, less calm. But the video refused to agree with him. Captain Elise Grant entered without announcing herself. She closed the door behind her and sat down across from him. She didn't start with accusations. She started with facts. "You arrested her for disorderly conduct," she said. "Yes," Ward replied. His voice was tight. She refused to comply. Grant leaned forward slightly. "With what exactly?" "She didn't move when I told her to." Grant didn't interrupt. She waited. "She questioned the order," Ward continued. "She challenged me in front of people." Grant nodded once, slowly. "Questioning is not a crime." Ward shifted in his seat. "It undermines authority." Grant's voice stayed level. "Authority that can't handle a question isn't authority. It's insecurity." Silence filled the room. Ward stared at the table. In another building across the city, Nia Coleman sat in her office, jacket still folded over the chair the way she'd left it that morning. The normal sounds of the DOJ floor hummed around her. Printers, phones, footsteps. But everything felt slightly off, like a picture hung crooked. Colleagues passed her doorway with looks that mixed concern and recognition. Some stopped. Some didn't know what to say. She opened a fresh document and began writing. Not a statement. Not a speech. A timeline. 8:42 a.m. initial contact. 8:44 a.m. request for clarification. 8:46 a.m. arrest. She wrote the words without emotion. This wasn't personal. That was the mistake people always made. This was systemic. She had spent her career explaining that difference to judges who didn't want to hear it. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from attorneys, advocates, old classmates. She ignored most of them. Attention could wait. Accuracy could not. Back at the precinct, internal affairs took over. They asked Ward to walk through the incident step by step. He repeated his report, word for word. The investigator, a quiet man named Leon Price, let him finish before responding. "There's no evidence of a disturbance," Price said. "No complaints. No obstruction. No raised voice." Ward's jaw clenched. She made it public. Price looked up. "By existing?" Ward didn't answer. Price slid a still image across the table. A frame from the video. Nia standing still. Hands visible. Expression calm. "This is what juries see," Price said. "Not what you felt." That afternoon, the city's legal department requested an emergency briefing. They had already seen the risk. Federal employee. Civil Rights Division. Multiple videos. Clean audio. No threat narrative. No safety justification. This wasn't a case to spin. It was a case to survive. The mayor's office drafted a statement, then redrafted it, then shelved it. Every version sounded hollow. Meanwhile, the public response grew sharper. Commentators pointed out what Nia herself had argued in court for years. Disorderly conduct arrests spike when people ask questions. The charge is flexible enough to stretch over silence, enough to punish calm, enough to end conversations quickly. That evening, Nia sat across from Ward again. This time, it wasn't in uniform or under fluorescent lights. It was during a recorded mediation intake preliminary required. 2 individuals in a small room. No audience, no shouting. Ward spoke first, trying to sound controlled. "I was doing my job." Nia looked at him steadily. "Your job is to enforce the law, not your comfort." "You didn't comply," he said. "I asked you to explain," she replied. "That's not refusal." "You could have just moved," Ward said. Nia's voice stayed even. "I could have. And you could have checked my identification. We both had choices." Ward leaned forward. "You embarrassed me." There it was. The truth slipped out without armor. Nia didn't raise her voice. Your embarrassment is not legal grounds for arrest. The mediator shifted uncomfortably. The recording light blinked. Ward looked away. People don't understand what it's like out there. Nia answered quietly. I understand exactly what it's like. I've spent my career cleaning up the damage it causes. That conversation ended without resolution. It didn't need one. The facts were already louder than either of them. Over the next few days, more information surfaced. Ward's reports from previous years showed the same language patterns. Non-compliant, disruptive, failed to obey, always vague, always subjective, always used when conversations didn't go his way. None had reached public attention before. None had involved someone with Nia's reach. Until now. The department placed Ward on unpaid suspension pending termination. His union issued a brief statement about due process. It landed flat. The video had already decided public opinion. Nia filed her notice of intent to sue on Friday morning. It wasn't traumatic. It didn't accuse. It documented. Every claim tied to evidence. Every allegation backed by footage. The filing was surgical. The city requested talks almost immediately. Behind closed doors, officials admitted what they would never say publicly. This arrest had crossed the wrong person in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not because she was special, but because she knew how to force the truth to stay visible. Nia refused to rush. She knew pressure favored patience. As the week ended, Ward cleaned out his locker. No cameras followed him. No crowd waited, just silence. The same silence that had surrounded so many others before the wrong arrest finally found the right witness. The story wasn't over. It was just changing shape. The lawsuit landed quietly, but it hit like a hammer. 47 pages. No dramatic language. No emotional framing. Just facts lined up so tightly they left no room to breathe. Dates, times, transcripts, screenshots pulled from body cameras and civilian phones. Every decision Officer Caleb Ward made was frozen, labeled, and connected to policy he was trained to follow and chose not to. City attorneys read it in silence. By Monday morning, the department understood something important. This wasn't a case they could delay into exhaustion. This wasn't a misunderstanding they could bury in procedure. The evidence didn't argue. It waited. Nia Coleman went back to work like nothing had changed. Same entrance. Same security checkpoint. Different air. Officers who once walked past her now nodded carefully. Some avoided eye contact altogether. Respect didn't feel like respect when it arrived late. Inside conference rooms, meetings stacked back to back. Training failures. Supervision gaps. The same phrases repeated. Breakdown. Opportunity to improve. Everyone spoke like the problem lived in the abstract. Nia knew better. Systems fail in specific moments with specific people. Caleb Ward received his termination notice 3 weeks later. No ceremony. No speech. Just a letter citing improper arrest, failure to de-escalate, and conduct inconsistent with departmental standards. He stared at the page longer than necessary, waiting for it to say something else. It didn't. He requested an appeal. It went nowhere. The video played again during review. It always ended the same way. The city moved next. Settlement talks began before depositions were complete. The number climbed quietly, then stopped. $750,000. No admission of wrongdoing. A familiar line. But attached to the agreement was something less familiar. Changes. Mandatory verification when federal credentials are claimed. Clear limits on disorderly conduct enforcement. Automatic supervisor review when arrests happen near government buildings. Body camera audits tied to discipline, not suggestions. Policy written because one woman stood still. The announcement came on a Tuesday afternoon. Headlines spread fast. Some focused on the money. Others focused on the title attached to Nia's name. senior DOJ litigator. As if that was the point. Nia read the articles once, then closed them. She had never believed justice was proven by attention. It was proven by what changed after the cameras left. She directed most of the settlement into legal aid programs and community training. Not speeches, not panels. Practical sessions, what to say, what to ask, what to record, how to survive the moment without surrendering your rights. At one session months later, a young woman raised her hand. Were you scared? Nia answered honestly. No, I was aware. That distinction mattered. The department held its mandatory retraining 6 weeks after the settlement. Officers sat in rows, arms crossed, watching the same video they had avoided for months. Pause. Play. Pause. The instructor didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He asked one question. What was the crime? No one answered. That silence was heavier than any protest. Outside, life kept moving. New arrests. New videos. New arguments about power and order. But this story stuck because it removed excuses. There was no chaos, no threat, no confusion, just a question met with force. Nia returned to the same sidewalk one morning, not for work, but on purpose. She stood near the planter. Same spot. Same distance from the door. People passed. No one stopped. A security officer glanced at her, then looked away. She didn't stay long. She didn't need to. This wasn't about proving something could happen. It was about proving it already had, and that it didn't disappear just because the wrong person was finally arrested. Caleb Ward took a job outside law enforcement. No one asked him about that morning. He didn't offer it. Some lessons don't announce themselves. They sit. The city issued one final statement months later, buried on a Friday. Commitment to reform. Ongoing evaluation. The usual language. But beneath it sat policies that couldn't be undone quietly. Nia watched from a distance. She had never needed an apology. Accountability was enough. The truth was simple and uncomfortable. Disorderly conduct had never been about disorder. It had been about control. And control fails the moment someone refuses to pretend confusion. That morning at 8:42 didn't end on the sidewalk. It echoed outward. Into policy. Into training rooms. Into future encounters where an officer might pause instead of reaching for cuffs. Not because they were kinder. Because they remembered what happened when someone asked a question and refused to be small. And that was the real disturbance.